Welcome to TriTech University. My name is Bill Steppen, and today we are exploring getting the most of tracking your customer activity in AIM v12. Now, you may or may not already be collecting customer info for your everyday transactions, and I want to show how easily and effectively you can do that and start to capitalize on that information. As always, if you have any questions about what we're covering today, go ahead and use the questions box in that GoToWebinar toolbar, and that way I will see those questions coming in and I can answer those as we go along. So let's go ahead and just like always, let's check out my screen over here where I've got a copy of version 12 running here. So I'll go ahead and turn off my webcam as always, just to save the space here. So when you're getting started with tracking customers, first, let's talk about why you'd want to track customers in the first place, because maybe your business type doesn't necessarily preclude wanting to track every single customer that comes in that door. Well, with the ability to add customers easily within AIM, simply by scanning their driver's license or collecting a few other key bits of info, and we'll take a look at that here, you'll be able to start building not only a marketing platform, but also you'll be able to see which customers have made what purchases from you for the purposes of better customer service down the road. Now, there are certainly times when you don't necessarily need or can collect that customer info, and we'll take a look at how to skip doing so that you don't hamper your customer's experience. Let's get started with talking about some customer types. Now, if we take a look in our maintenance menu, where we kind of always start in these videos, let's go into the customer section, and the most important function, kind of the core of every customer, is what's known as a customer default or a customer type. Let's go ahead and open this up. I've got just a couple in here to get you started. Every instance of AIM is going to come with what's called a cash customer type. That doesn't necessarily mean that these customers are going to pay with cash. It simply implies that they are not able to charge a transaction to a store balance and pay for it over time. Now, you could still do things like layaway balances and things of that nature, but they can't pay you tomorrow for a cheeseburger today, as some of you may pick up the reference on. Now, another popular type is what's called a charge customer, and this does give your customers the ability to do that. But you could certainly have all other kinds of customer types that allow for quick and simple defaults when the situation applies. For example, if we take a look at these fields here, you can see that what we're talking about when we talk about a customer type is some kind of description. So this first and foremost gives you an easy way to organize your customers, but it also lets you specify certain types of billing types, whether they can charge, whether if there's going to be invoices, those are going to be printed with the statements on that monthly basis. Also over here on the right-hand side, you can see that we can establish certain things like terms of purchase. How many days do the customer have before that balance needs to be paid in full on that invoice? Are you going to charge any kind of interest rate or finance charge on these balances? And if so, would you like to establish some kind of annual interest rate, APR? Are you going to want to cap the customer's spending by giving them a credit limit? Do the customers qualify for some kind of automatic discount at point of sale? And if so, you can set these up either by certain type of inventory, such as all accessory inventory, all serialized, all media. You can also forego these kind of across the board discounts, and you could go to the discounts tab where you could set up certain types of discounts based on the inventory category that the purchase is coming from. So you can see in here, we can make some selections here, such as inventory or non-inventory category types. We can also specify whether that's going to be a percentage off, or if it's going to be like a cost plus a certain percent or a weighted cost plus a certain percent. This is a great way, by the way, of establishing some kind of, let's say, employee discount where the employees get, let's say, cost plus 10% of something like that. So keep that in mind. Getting back to the details tab, you have the ability to color code these customers in certain fashions. You can also establish whether a certain price point is going to be used. And then for some types of customers, they may be tax exempt because of various reasons. And if so, per the customer default, you can check mark this little tax exempt customer type and then choose one of the following reasons, whether they are a government entity or they're a resale customer, they're out of state, they're a school or a church, a nonprofit, or some other type of entity that precludes tax exemption. Now, all of these fields that you can see here on this screen are customizable on a customer by customer basis. So you don't always have to create a whole new customer default for every single unique type of customer that walks in that front door. But this is basically a nice, easy way so that when you or your staff want to add a customer to the system, you can just make a selection here and it'll use all of these by default. So that's kind of the idea of a customer default. If there's any questions on that, definitely let me know. What we're going to see is when we move to adding a customer into the system, let's go back to the main menu and hop into modules and customers, where we'll see some options for adding and changing customers. If you're going to add a customer right off the fly, you can do so by coming into this Add Customer screen. And from here, if you've ever filled out a Rolodex card, I'm probably showing my age with that reference, or if you've just simply filled out a contact card on, say, like your smartphone or in your email address book or anything like that. This should be fairly self-explanatory. First and foremost, we're going to pick one of those customer types. Let's say we're going to go ahead and choose the charge customer type. Then from there, we can fill in their name and their address and their phone and city and state and all those fun details. Based on the customer type, if I come over here to this billing tab, you'll see it's automatically filled some details in, such as their terms of purchase from 30 days and so forth. If I had filled in any discounts on that customer default, they'd be showing up here as well. Now, I just want to point out a few kind of shortcuts. You'll notice if I come back to this name tab and I just start typing in a name, let's say John Doe, and I hit tab, it's automatically filled in this short name with their last name and their first initial. Now, back in the customer type, there is an option to stop at that short name field. So if the customer type precludes some type of business or some type of institution or organization, you may want it to stop at that short name field instead of skipping past it, like you can see when I hit that tab button. Maybe we're talking about First National Baptist Church or something like that. And if that's the case, it would do something like this, where if I type in First Baptist Church, you can see it just fills in Church F. That's not really all that helpful from where we're looking up customers. So you may want to stop at that field and replace it with First National Baptist or something like that. It's basically an easy way to search customers. But let's kind of get back to some other shortcuts that I just want to point out. Let's get back to our John Doe example here. Of course, primary email, you can just fill in whatever you need there. Attention, if we are talking about an organization, you could put in a primary contact. Now you'll notice as I keep tabbing, it's for the most part just moving straight down. Address line 1, address line 2, but watch what happens when I hit tab next. It's going to skip down to the zip code field. This is on purpose. If you type in a zip code that you've already used at some point in the past, when you hit tab from there, it will automatically fill in the city and state for you. Now, if you saw like what it did there was I put in 52001 instead of 003. Let's just go back and kind of reset this. What it would do is if you use a zip code that it's never used in the past, it will basically go back to the city and state so that the next time you use that same zip code, it will remember the city and state and county and country combo of that zip code. From there, you can fill in phone information and other types of details. I do want to also talk a little bit about these phone number fields. You can see there are up to four phone fields here, phone 1 through 4. Now notice how these have drop downs associated with them. Home phone, work phone, fax, and cell phone are kind of what they are by default. I just want to point out that technically this phone number 1 field here, I want to call this like the primary phone number. So if they only have one phone number, you'll want to make sure you put it into that first phone number field. And then what you can do from there is if it is not a home phone number, if it is a cell phone, you can just click on that drop down and relabel it as such. And then you can just put in whatever you need there. And then it will remember that phone number as the primary phone number going forward. Then over here, you can put in any extensions or other labels that you might need with that phone number. Now, of course, all of this takes time when we're talking about point of sale and speed and efficiency. So, and of course, I'm perfectly aware that not everyone out there is as fluent with keyboards as others. In fact, there may be situations where the front counter point of sale doesn't necessarily have a keyboard available. Maybe you're operating primarily on a kind of a touch screen or other type of situation where there's just no room for a keyboard. In those types of situations, having a barcode scanner that's capable of doing what's called a 2D barcode scan, two-dimensional, lets you then scan driver's licenses into the system. This basically allows you to quickly and efficiently fill in most of these fields. So let's do this. Let's just kind of reset the screen. I'm going to hit cancel, and we'll just go back into add customer. Watch what happens when I go over here to this driver's license field and I click this scan license button. It will pop up this little box here where it will ask me to scan the license. Now I have copied onto my computer kind of a sample driver's license code that would come from a barcode scan. So I'm just going to paste that in there. You can see it's mostly just a bunch of gobbledygook. When I hit OK, it will parse that information into the necessary fields. So their name field, their address, their city, state, zip, all their driver's license info. The only things that this is not going to capture are details that don't necessarily exist on a driver's license, like their customer type. You want to make sure you pick the most appropriate type. It's not going to capture any email or phone information because those don't exist on driver's licenses. So ideally, you'll want to capture one or the other or both of those if possible. So by having that available, this really speeds up the process of adding customers at the time of the transaction. Now, if you or your customers are quite validly concerned about capturing some of this driver's license info, maybe you strictly want to capture just the name and address and stuff like that, and bypass any driver's license info because you don't necessarily need that in all industries. There is, and I'm just going to use the drop-down menus up here, a system variable that controls which of those fields you will capture when you scan a driver's license. So let's go to maintenance, down to general, and into system variables. And the variable in question is called customer DL address, or excuse me, no, DL fields. On this variable, you can see this is a multiple part system variable here, but this description basically spells it all out. It says this controls which fields are updated when you scan a driver's license. Every one of these characters corresponds to a field. And we can see down here, it's going to walk us through what all those different fields are, starting with name and address 1 and 2, city, state, zip, country. Then getting beyond like the first 7 or so, we get into the driver's license number, height, weight, hair, ethnicity, eye, gender, date of birth, expires, and driver's license state. And basically, you just change whatever fields you don't want to capture from a capital Y to a capital N. You can then turn off which fields you capture. So it just won't even pull those into the necessary fields. So that way you can even show your customer, hey, we're not actually capturing that info. You can see these fields aren't even getting filled in. So just wanted to point that out as well. Now, let's say that this is all well and good, but again, we're talking about speed and efficiency at point of sale. How do we access this when we're sitting at a point of sale screen? Let's just go ahead and close that out. And anytime you're going to a new point of sale, you've got this quick link button up here that goes straight to that, and that will bring up the point of sale screen. Let me actually just kind of bring this over here. So on the point of sale screen, and again, it kind of popped up really quick. Let's just kind of restart this over here. You can see it brings up the customer search box. Now at this point, this is going to be looking for an existing customer, but you'll notice there's an add customer button over here where you can click that, and that takes you right to the add customer screen. So if when you were looking for Mr. John Jacob Customaya Schmidt, you can start typing in their name, and you can see it doesn't find any Johns in there. But then what I can do is I can click Add Customer, click the Scan License, scan that in, beep boop, and there's John Jacob Customaya Schmidt. I go ahead and I save him in. Of course, I got to grab a customer type. And now he is a new customer that is now being tracked in the system. You can see it's being sold to that account. And going forward, anytime they come back in for a purchase, I can go ahead and I can either type in John or any other part of their name, or I could even, if I wanted to, scan that license and it will take me to their account. You can see it comes up and says sold to John Jacob Customaya Schmidt. So at that point, any transactions that we save to that account will show on their customer history. Now, let's talk about customer history in a minute, but as I mentioned, there are certainly situations where a customer says, I don't want to give you my info, I don't need to give you my info. Not a big deal. When you are at the customer selection screen, if you need to bypass that, you can always click this QS button, which will default the sale to what's called a quick sale account. If I click that, you can see this is now changing this to say it's being sold to a generic account called cash sale, followed by the name of your store. Mine's just set up as Professor Drytex Emporium. So that could be, the music store or whatever the name of your store is. And that way you'll still be able to track the sale. It's just going to a nondescript customer account. You might also notice that there's no little info box that pops up when we're selling to this cash sale account. Let's just go ahead and bring up the exact customer screen here. You can see there's a little info box here. When I click that, that takes me to the customer history. Going forward, any purchases made against the customer account, you have the ability to track. Now let me see if I recall correctly. I think I have some customer purchase history on my good old guinea pig here of Mike Anderson. So I can see he's got a credit on his account of $150. Now, when you're in this customer history screen, this drop down here gives you the ability to go back and look at any and all activity that you've recorded for the customer. Some of the most popular ones are sold inventory. I just typed in SOL to get me down to that quickly. I can click the go button from here. And then on this table, and unfortunately, I don't have any really much info in here, but at this point, I would be able to easily look in and see every piece of inventory, every non-inventory category that that customer has ever purchased. I can click into any of those contains boxes below those columns and do a drill down or a filter for a specific SKU item or a specific description. If we're talking about months and years worth of sales activity, there are certainly times when customers have made that same purchase more than once. So I can use this to find all those instances with their invoice number and their date and how many they purchased and what the price was that they paid for them. This is especially helpful if the customers have specific preferences to brand names or specific SKUs of what they want to buy. Say, for example, if you are a music store and the customer always is looking for a specific type of reed, or you're a firearm store and the customer prefers a certain type of ammo, not that they could get that on a moment's notice right now. I know ammo shortages are still widespread across the country. Especially helpful if you're, let's say, a vacuum store. The customer has a specific model of vacuum where only certain types of bags will fit or filters are needed. You have the ability to look this up at a glance. So you can look it up by that customer sold inventory purchase history. You can also look it up by straight invoice history. You might notice that on all of these pop-up windows, they're basically made up of these grid type setups where you could basically go in and do a filter on any of these fields and look up those purchases. An extra special function here in this invoice history is the ability to, when you find the right invoice, you can right click and reprint it, or you can see who the employee was that had made that original purchase. So you've got all of this activity just basically a few mouse clicks away. And again, this gives you the ability, we'll get into this in a later webinar, but just all kinds of power for the purposes of marketing. You can send out email blasts and you can reach out to customers based on their brand name purchases, or you can look up the ability to get your top 50 customers for whatever date range you're looking for based on how many purchases they've made or total dollars spent. All kinds of functions that are available to you. Now, we could talk about customer history and marketing all day long, but I do want to just talk a little bit more about those types of scenarios where having a customer is kind of more of a rarity than not. Let's say the majority of your sales are just those walk-in customers that you might never see again, or you're never sure if you'd see again, but you do still have a need for pulling up a customer as necessary. And you might notice that when we go into a point of sale, it always comes up and asks us for the customer account. Well, we only want to be able to pull that up on demand. We don't want to have to click that QS button every time. Now you could just go straight to the quick sale button here, which would bypass that. But when you close out the sale, let's just do a quick sale here, some good old valve oil, and we'll just pay for that with cash and finalize, and we'll just pretend I'm printing that transaction. You'll see that at that point, the quick sale is done. It doesn't bring us back to the next customer in line. Unlike a non-quick sale, if we go to the point of sale button and do the same thing, click the QS button, let's go ahead and sell some RT14 again. We'll just do the same thing. We'll tender with $5 and finalize and pretend we print that out. You can see the screen basically resets itself. Well, it would normally reset itself if I didn't have this set up in a certain way. That certain way, by the way, is a setting in the workstations here called batch mode functions. I've disabled that batch mode program mode. Normally this is not checkmarked. Let's go ahead and save that. And I might need to actually close out of the program entirely. So let me actually just quickly reset my login here. And I'm gonna try and just kind of, again, mimic what this would normally look like for when you are setting this up for your normal point of sale. So give me 2 seconds while I reload my account here. And again, if there's any questions, definitely let me know. This will be coming up here in just a second. There we go. So let's bring this back up. So I now have that disabled. Or again, if we go back to the workstation settings, and I'll just re-show this again. So I've turned on batch programs. And what that means again is when I go to a sale and we will click the QS button to do a quick sale. And now again, we'll sell some RT14. We will tender that payment, do the $5 and finalize. And then I will pretend I'm printing that. And what you'll see happens, if my mouse would catch up with me, is the screen will reset itself for the next sale. And you can see it's asking me for the customer account again. And then I would have to click QS. And I don't necessarily want to do that, again, for the types of industries or the types of sales environments where you don't ask for that customer except in certain situations. So what you can do to get kind of the best of both worlds, the quick sale functionality by default, but the ability to just have one sale after another without having to click that QS or quick sale button every single time, is back in that same area in the workstation settings, maintenance, general, and workstations, you can, on the miscellaneous tab, check mark the option for right here where it says default point of sale to cash account. If I have that check marked, what you'll notice now happens when I go back into a point of sale is it will not ask me for the customer account. So it's just defaulting to the quick sale cash sale account. At this point, if I do need to select a specific customer, I can just come up here and click on the Sold To button, where I can then pull up whatever customer I need, add customers as necessary, and then I'm still taking advantage of that customer tracking. I'm giving the customers those automatic benefits that they might be set up with, such as automatic discounts, tax exemption statuses, all kinds of fun stuff. I'm still tracking those customer purchases, and I'm not bogging down or slowing down the point of sale process, which is also critical to a happy customer experience. So this kind of brushes the surface of all of the customer functionality that's available within AIM. I encourage you to explore all of the other functions. We're going to be getting more in depth with a lot of these other customer functions in future webinars. A lot of it has to do with being able to gather and organize that information for the purposes of marketing and reporting, and ultimately overall boosting sales, because the best customers, as they say, are the customers that have already been in your store. So if we have the ability to bring them back because they've already had a happy experience with you, well, then they're going to just keep on wanting to come back and spend their money with you. And that in turn can lead to a lot of word of mouth advertising, which is certainly free on your behalf, because customers, they want to hear from other customers who've had that great experience with your store. So hopefully this has been a helpful kind of little foray into the customer functionality within AIM. By all means, we're going to be doing, like I said, more webinars. I don't have my webinar schedule in front of me. I know that we're looking at a few other just kind of modules here the rest of this month. I haven't yet released the schedule for April, but I'm kind of finalizing that this first couple weeks here as we speak, and then we'll be getting more into that. And look for our upcoming webinar list here shortly on the same member portal and TriTech University page, where you got the link to this one, which is also where you'll be able to check out the recording from today's webinar. As always, if there are any webinar suggestions that you'd like to see me do, by all means, drop me a line to training@tritechretail.com. And I take all of those suggestions very seriously, because I want to make sure that these sessions are for your benefit, not just to hear me speak for a half an hour. So anyway, thank you so much for your attention, and I look forward to seeing you next Thursday when we'll be diving into whatever the topic is for that week. Thank you so much, and I hope you can make it a great day. Thanks.